This is Maurice Jones-Drew, and you're listening to the What's Bruin Show.
You're listening to the What's Bruin Show, part of the What's Bruin Show network, with your hosts, Jake Berryfield and Mike Regalado, and occasionally some friends, talking all things UCLA sports. And now, it's time for the What's Bruin Show.
Well, hello and welcome to What's Bruin. I am your host, Jake Berryfield, and in a few minutes, I'll be joined by my good buddy, Mike Regalado.
Big applause, Big Mike.
From Bruin Report Online, and we'll be talking about, stuff, UCLA basketball, whatever. But it's the What's Bruin Show on the What's Bruin Show network. That's at What's Bruin Show on Twitter or X, that thing. What's Bruin Show at gmail.com. Thank you for your emails. Support the show on patreon.com/What's Bruin Show or what'sbruinshow.com or the Substack, what'sbruin.substack.com. Thank you for your support. You can search us on YouTube. Just go to YouTube, search What's Bruin Show, and it's all the stuff that's related to UCLA, not the stuff that's related to those idiots in Boston. And there's a site for merch in the show notes, mylocker.net site, and you can call the hotline, 805-399-4WBS, Second Run Troy. Now the football season's over, we haven't had too many calls, but we got one from Carrie, so I'm going to let that rip.
Hey, What's Bruin Show? It's Carrie. Not sure if you're doing a show this week, but thought I'd call and say hello. Appreciated the emergency show last week. Happy to see EB, quote unquote, part ways with UCLA. I like Tino, Missouri. One thing though is he hasn't called plays, so it's going to be interesting to see how he does. And then I guess they're talking about the defensive line coach from Fresno State, but it looks like Foster's trying to get these coaches in place to help with the recruiting. Yeah, it's a lot on his plate right now. Really good weekend for UCLA, national championship, men's water polo, and then both the basketball teams won, and obviously the men's in, last second fashion with Dylan Andrews' bank for 3 to beat Oregon. So at Oregon. So that was fun. But I'm just waiting to see how much UCLA can recruit, because there's a lot of holes to fill. So I'm going to keep my fingers crossed, and I'm hoping that the coffers are going to be enough, to get a decent team together. And I'm surprised about who went into the portal. Still kind of getting over that. But yeah, I really like I forgot to mention, Jake, I really like the Don't Forget About Trey soundbite to, in response to the discipline issues
They forgot about Trey
that the team's been having. Anyhow, that's all I got. Hope everyone's doing well, and go Bruins.
Thank you very much for calling, Carrie. That call was actually from last Tuesday, so Mike did the show after that, but I wasn't on there, and Mike wasn't there to get the call, but we appreciate all of your guys' support, and especially when Carrie calls. And I like that Forgot About Dre button too, Carrie.
They forgot about Trey.
But getting into what Carrie was talking about with the football program, this week I was planning on doing like a whole kind of segment on the season football wrap-up and kind of go through and summarize the games again and talk about the whole season now that it's completely finished. But it's kind of irrelevant now that there's been so much change already just coming off of the end of the season. And a lot of the variables heading into next season or looking ahead to next season just aren't the same anymore because Deshaun Foster took decisive action. All we really need to understand about UCLA's 2024 campaign is that it was a tremendous missed opportunity, based on what the national expectations were. Across the country, everybody was very, very low on UCLA because of the anonymous nature in which Deshaun Foster came to be the coach, because of the story that Chip Kelly kind of walked away, even though, if you're close to the program, you realized he was kind of twisting the wind, and then he just kind of, bailed at the last minute. But the way all that coaching stuff happened last offseason, and the late time at which they hired Foster, and then really the only notable thing about Foster and his coaching staff that the national media latched onto was who he hired for offensive coordinator. And it turned out that was a giant catastrophe. The one thing people latched onto as the bright talking point ended up being the anchor around this team. And that's not hyperbole at all. I think if you went back and talked to anybody that watched Big Ten play this year and was talking about it, they would say that UCLA's defense was wildly underrated compared to how they performed on the field this year. And I'm not talking about the stats, I'm about looking how these guys played in these games. Obviously, they were a team that peaked better defensively than they started. They were just okay at the beginning, but by the end, they were playing very well, and they had some big-time performers. Carson Schlesinger came out of nowhere. Kay Mondrado, we knew he was good, but he had a big season that I don't think anybody else expected. And then Jay Toya was the MVP of the team pretty much, and that he was the straw that stirred the drink as far as the UCLA defense goes. But that was something that was much better than anybody thought they would be. And it turns out that the offense was much, much, much worse than anybody really thought it could be. Except for, I know before the season started, anybody asked me if I had any reservations at all about UCLA having a kind of a fun season, and it was, I was worried that the offensive coordinator hire was going to be Kennedy Palomalu 2.0. And sure enough, that's what it turned out to be. Did I know that was going to happen for sure? Absolutely not. But I figured if things were going to go wrong, this is the reason they would go wrong. It's because it was an overly complicated system that was not designed for college kids to have success. And you link that with not great play calling either. Because there was offensive talent on this team, way more talent than what it produced. Ethan Garbers, Keegan Jones, Jamie Earl Sturdivant, Logan Loya, pick a player. They're all much better players than what they were allowed to be this year. And it was because of this dreadful, dreadful offense that kneecapped the team. Even with a mediocre offense this season, this team would have won at least 6 games, probably 7, and they would have been a really nice story. Instead, they kind of maintain in the kind of anonymous pile, right? No one's really worried about them in the Big Ten. They didn't really have a real impact on the Big Ten, and next season, no one's going to think that they're going to make a big impact in the Big Ten, especially given what we're talking about with all that they're losing. But really, it's all owed to the one notable hire they made after Foster, and that is the hiring of Eric Fredo Bieniemy. Now, luckily, now looking ahead to next year, and more on that later, but the Bruins are going to lose a lot of talent. It's, I'll say this again later in the show, but if I were you, I wouldn't bother looking at the transfer portal or the recruiting or anything right now. Wait a month and wait till it stabilizes, and then you can kind of have an idea of what they're going to be going into 2025 with. Let the people get paid for this stuff keep track of it for you, because otherwise you're just going to drive yourself nutty. But the Bruins are losing a lot of talent, and even with what look like coaching upgrades, they may have a worse season next year just because of the missed opportunity with the talent this year, and now a possible, certainly they're losing a bunch of guys for sure, and there's a bunch of other guys that are choosing to leave, and it did not have to be that way. But the good news is we don't have to dwell on the fact that the offense completely ruined this team's chance to have a big year. Because, as I said, Coach Sean Foster made decisive action. He channeled his inner Michael Corleone, and he put Fredo Bieniemy on a boat. We're going to have to hear from him again. Sure, Bieniemy wants to talk about how he walked away and it was always his plan 1 year, yada, yada, yada. Does he have a job yet? Question mark. It's the same exact story we heard from Washington last year. Some version of he was not invited to come back. He was not retained. He was fired, and deservedly so. Don't get it twisted. And I will confess, it does make me happy that the new offensive coordinator that they hired is named Tino, because it allows me to stretch this Godfather metaphor even further. I mean, to the point of breaking, really. But, Michael just put Fredo on the boat, but now his new coach is Santino, or Sonny, right? Corleone Brothers is right there. It all fits all together. I know it's a little bit of a stretch. But anywho, now the Bruins can be excited about the guy they hired as offensive coordinator, even though he's a guy that hasn't called plays yet. He's still somebody with a very good reputation as a rising star, right? And you could equate that to the Danton Lynn hire last year, where he's coming from the NFL, but he hasn't really ever coordinated before. I think this is even more like the Malloy hire last year, who was the understudy to a defensive coordinator that showed he had some chops in Danton Lynn, who goes. But Malloy was in the same boat, right? He was under Lynn and then got elevated and showed that he could coordinate a hell of a defense too. Obviously, he had a lot of players helping him out there, but I don't think anybody can complain about the job Malloy did, especially the arc that this team showed. You know, remember him crying after the third or fourth game, I feel like the Oregon game or something, talking about how much he cared about these players and this team. That he talk about a character arc. Man, this defense developed, and so now it's imperative that they keep the defensive coordinator. You know, and I think Sincere is a little more like that, in that he was under Shanahan at Indiana, but everybody kind of knows that he was going to get an opportunity to prove that he's got what it takes to be a good OC. And yeah, there might be a lot of unknowns here, but this guy has an amazing pedigree. Now, I'm not just talking about Cignetti. He was GA at Alabama under Saban, and that's where the offensive line coach that may or may not be coming in, I don't know if they actually hired him yet. That's what the tie is there. And they were GAs together. And look, no matter how you slice it, even if he comes in and they don't have the same talent they had this year, and they're not able to put together, an offense with as much potential as an offense this year could have had with the right coordinator hire, even if he's mediocre, it's still miles and miles ahead of where Fredo Bieniemy had us. So, we don't need to talk about the 2024 season anymore, because now it's just a lot of, God, what the hell is going on? We have no idea who's going to be on the team, and the coaching staff is still coming together. So, we can just have dreams of 2025 now and not have to worry about the baggage of keeping Fredo around. This reminds me of when Chip Kelly was hired after firing Jim Mora on his birthday. Much different circumstance, obviously. And it's, I don't think that hiring an offensive coordinator that's never called plays is the same as hiring, someone who had the stature of the time of Chip Kelly, but it's the same sort of decision process. They realized it wasn't working, and they took a swing on something that could pay off. And that's really all I'm looking for out of the Bruins at this point. Our expectations have been lowered so severely over the years, and you're just trying to get a sense that they're operating in the correct manner. Last year was complete, unmitigated disaster, the way they handled Chip Kelly's departure and then the eventual hiring of Deshaun Foster. This year, it's 180 degrees from that, in my opinion, in that you knew you weren't going to fire Deshaun Foster. It wasn't fair to fire Deshaun Foster. I don't think anybody should be calling for Deshaun Foster. Said the guy that needed to go is gone, got put on a boat. Goodbye, Fredo. Thank you, Deshaun Foster. All right, so thank you for allowing me that little rant there. Let's get Mike on the phone and see what else we want to talk about tonight. Alrighty, so let's bring good old Mikey on from Bruin Report Online. He's right here.
Mike Regalado.
Mike, how you doing tonight? Long time no talk.
I'm all right. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm hanging in there. So
what goes on, Jake? Oh, did you go to the K-Rock Acoustic Christmas?
I did not. I was kind of looking at it.
I thought you did.
No, I didn't go.
I could. I forgot to text you. Dude, it's been a busy weekend, as you will hear in the What's Brewing portion of this show. But I was like thinking of you. I saw a few friends post on their socials some of the videos from that, and I was that kind of looks cool. So
I remember there's a couple bands I wanted to see, but then it wasn't like anything that was like, oh my god, I must. And then I've been super busy as well, so it just didn't work out.
Oh god, this time of year sucks.
I usually like going to a couple concerts in December, but it's not happening this year. Mm-hmm. But I made that up with like sporting events, which I'll get to as well in my What's Brewing. But Mikey, thank you very much for picking up the slack on the you did a fun little emergency pod when by the way, Mike, I have now
Dude, things went down.
I've reglossed Eric Bieniemy as Fredo Bieniemy, and Deshaun Foster is Michael Corleone, and put that guy on a boat. So he's gone. And then also, by the way, who did they hire, Mike? What's the name of the guy they hired?
Tino Sinceri,
aka Santino, aka Sonny. So Michael put Fredo on a boat and hired Sonny Corleone. Look at that.
Oh, damn!
It's a stretch.
That connection was hot, Jake.
It's a
that
stretch.
Connection was hot.
It's a stretch.
It was a hot connection.
But I'm really proud of it. I like that.
I mean, well, it's better than my connection. I saw him in his sunglasses and his UCLA and his pompadour. I'm like, that's fucking Morrissey right there, man.
Oh yeah, totally, dude. Yeah,
that is a sexy human being.
Definitely.
Yeah, let's just hope that his brains are as good as his looks. So, but no, that was just a bold ass. Yeah, hopefully, crossing fingers. I mean, I'm sure that anything that he brings, especially from what Indiana showed us last year, at the very least, obviously they have to execute, but at the very least generates some interest. Hopefully, some of the players in the transfer portal, maybe get to talk to him and say, hey, this is what I'm going to do. And hopefully it aligns with his philosophy. But yeah, oh man, we have a lot to talk about in terms of transfers, ins and outs, and yeah, all that stuff. So
honestly, or do we? Because I'm wondering how much we actually should worry about the comings and goings right now, because it all could change so dramatically if we just wait like a month and a half or whatever and just see how it settles. But you talked about signing day and how they lost a couple guys, but then they got a guy, lost one quarterback, got a quarterback, and then the transfer portal, all these guys went into the portal, but they all went into the portal from the same agency that it all like signed with. That was something that was kind of bizarre and wacky. And I was talking I don't remember who I was talking to. It was somebody at work. It was my buddy's got a kid that's at Washington right now, and we were talking about, is this the year the transfer portal? I mean, how much different is the transfer portal going to be this year than next year, than last year, I should say, or how it has been? And I kind of have the feeling that more guys are going to go back to their original schools this year, and this is not just a UCLA thing; this is an all across the board thing, than probably they have in the past. Just because, number one, there's so many more guys going in the portal, and there's only so many guys that are going to like actually get paid, and some of these guys are looking for better situations, and they might decide at some point that the grass isn't greener on the other side, but they want to get their name out there, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if UCLA brought back some of the guys that went into the portal, and actually last year that happened for them already, with Jay Toya coming back, and Keegan Jones coming back, but
Keegs, yeah,
but you're right though, Mike, like. Your colleagues, the anarchist and Tracy,
I'm a bomb throwing anarchist now.
Were just talking on their show this last week about they went through all the depth chart that you guys have posted on Bro, and
hi, bro.
Yeah,
it was like over half of the guys are different, right? There's so many guys, and it's like I can't even wrap my brain.
Turnover.
I can't even wrap my brain around what they need or what they don't need. I don't want to wrap my brain around what they need or what they don't need, because there's no point to spending your time thinking about it, in my opinion, at this point, unless you're getting paid to cover it or whatever, which I understand.
Dude, returning production is not going to be good.
Well, maybe
if you're right. I mean, all of a sudden I go negative, and 2 minutes ago I'm like, Jake, they could come back. That's what this program does. Let's say that they can get some of those guys back. That's going to help a lot with continuity, chemistry, at least knowing how your teammates perform. And let's say Justin Martin comes back. I'm not saying he is. Logan Loya comes back. They've been thrown to it. They've been connecting for at least 2 years. So if you have that's pretty freaking fantastic. But Deshaun Foster, in terms of the transfer portal, has to plug that hole. He has to put that sticky duct tape on the outside of that tub that's hemorrhaging water,
no doubt.
like in those infomercials. I love those. But yeah, like so far, I think 13 have put their name in the transfer portal, and 4 have committed to UCLA. Now, here's another thing that people need to realize, and I've been seeing this on social media, and I'm not going to start correcting everybody because it's sometimes people don't know, but until they sign, they can definitely come back. So that is a huge possibility. I mean, if they're looking for a better spot, cool. But Deshaun Foster has to re-recruit these guys.
Well, and we already saw that happen.
That's just a given. Yeah, exactly.
We already saw that happen.
Yeah.
So it's like, I just
but
kind
it's
of
weird
have a
that
feeling.
it'll have to be on a bigger scale. That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, that's the thing that's really making me like not want to worry about it right now, because no matter what, even if all the guys that transferred out came back, which they're not, but even if all of them come back, right? UCLA, it's still an absolute given that they are losing still a ton of talent. I mean, they had over 40 guys walk for senior day. I was trying to get a list, and there was like,
that was insane.
So it's like,
it was.
So like the most important thing is that, they're losing guys for sure. Plus they're losing transfer guys. And in my opinion, I talked about earlier, Mike, did a little soliloquy on, the 2024 season, how we really don't have to worry about it anymore because everything's changing. But they missed an opportunity last year to have a surprising season and gain positive momentum, right? And the cost of that is that not only are they losing the guys that were going to leave anyway, the big performers, the seniors or whatever, but now they're going to lose guys because of the bad feelings that Fredo, engendered in the offense, allegedly, and so now they have to deal with the losses they were going to get no matter what, because they aged out or timed out or whatever, and they lose the transfer losses. And so even though I think, in my opinion, and I think in your opinion too, they are absolutely on the right path to putting together a good staff, they have to keep Malloy, absolutely. But getting Demetrius Martin in, and the offensive coordinator hire, Tino Santeri, like those are great, very, very, very good signs, and the way that they did it is great. And so I'm very, very bullish right now on what I think the coaching staff will be, assuming that they're able to somehow, hopefully they keep Malloy, right? If they lose him, then I'm going to be very despondent again. I'm hoping he doesn't go. But if they keep Malloy, they have Tino, and they have Deshaun Foster, who got these guys to play hard all season last year, then I think this is a dramatically improved coaching staff. But you have to couple that with, they're probably, if things work out by the probabilities, they're probably not going to be able to replace all the talent they lost this year. And so next year we might be going into a season where they are a less talented team, but they're more together, right? They have a better, they're deployed better, and so they might be able to overachieve, but they're going to be overachieving because they are under talented next year. But hopefully if they can do that, then they can start the boulder rolling back in the right direction again.
And something else that I've seen a lot of people post about, and it makes total sense. Deshaun Foster was hired late, February? And that wasn't a lot of time, for one, to try to figure out who's going to be the next head coach, yet have the new head coach come in and select his staff. He kind of did it was pretty quick. It was kind of impressive. There were some, pretty interesting coaches, but it was a slapdash job, considering that he only had a few weeks / months. Now he kind of sees what he has in front of him. He has a year under his belt. Although I know you don't want to do a season review, but I do want to ask you later how you think Deshaun Foster has done, and obviously with what we're seeing, if he's going in a good direction. Anyway, back to my point: the fact that that he is really purging the staff right now and bringing in some what looks like stud hires. But let's not get excited. We've seen this before, Jim Kelly. But it's not done. It's not filled out, and with a few, just the way that the staff was filled out. Like, for example, having inside line coach as opposed to outside line coach, that mixes it up. And so, like, are you going to separate those coaches by position on the line, or are you going to have one guy do it? It seems like even that's changing as well. So, yeah, to your point, we got to calm down and wait to see what happens. But at the same time, Deshaun Foster is showing some chutzpah. That's pretty badass. That the fact that he's going like, first time coach, never been a coordinator, first time head coach, and he's like, yeah, you didn't cut it. You're gonna have to move on. I'm bringing in some new guys. It's a business. You got to do what you got to do.
Look, I'm not gonna say I'm happy he did it, and I think it needed to be done, and I'm surprised that it was done in the way it was done. Other than that, it shouldn't have been a super hard decision, because literally they had one of the worst offenses that in the country, and it was one of the worst offenses that UCLA has ever seen. So it was an obvious decision, but the surrounding factors made it a still kind of a difficult decision in some ways, right? But I'm very glad that he had the, as in your words, the chutzpah to do it, and now it's done, and now we can just move on with our lives, thankfully, right? But that, the thing that sticks out to me is, look, when Chip Kelly was hired, we were excited not just because it was a quote unquote big time hire. It's probably the biggest coaching hire in UCLA history based on what his resume was coming into it. And it didn't work out, but that doesn't mean that the process wasn't right. We thought that we all were like excited because it seemed like the process was right. And one of the few times we can look at in UCLA history where it's like they did it the right way, and what could go wrong now? Well, it turns out Chip Kelly could go horribly wrong, and he did. But that doesn't mean that it wasn't the right decision at the time. And then last year,
no, not at all.
Pointing to the way the Chip Kelly era ended, that was completely bungled in every sense of the way. And it led to the loss of your defensive coordinator, Jim, that you found just last year. It led to this crazy twisting in the wind for the program until they were able to hire Foster. And so the process last year was dreadful, horrible, wrong, and just completely off. So what makes me happy about this year is it seems like the way that they came about this and what they're doing, we're back to having a good process, right? And you saw something dreadfully wrong with your program, and you are trying to fix it. There's no way to know if the offensive coordinator hire is going to be good or not at this point, but it definitely could be. And signs point to it being good, and that's really all you can ask for, right? You're not giving up. You're not just going to say, yeah, well, we told EB we'd keep him around for a couple years, and we don't want to pay the money we got to pay to get rid of him, and yada, yada, yada. No, you don't want to go through another year of that. If they would have gone through another year of that, my God, by the end of the year, there probably would have been 5,000 people at the Rose Bowl for the last game, for the last home game. Like, that's how depressing that was. So at least now you give yourself a chance to, right the ship. And so that's why I'm more happy with the process part of this than I am with really anything else.
Yeah. And it does seem to fit a little bit more of what one would imagine Deshaun Foster wants. But in terms of not just hiring or letting guys go, they absolutely need to keep Akeka Malloy.
Yeah,
I know that there's if the defensive coordinator job opens at Washington, that is definitely attractive to him because that's his school, that's his home. He has done a hell of a job. Not a lot of people expected him to replicate or even come close to what Danton Lynn did the prior year, but he did a hell of a job considering all the talent he lost.
Yeah.
So that definitely has to be a priority. Like, we haven't heard anything. There hasn't been any movement, but as of now, it seems like Malloy is here to stay. Demetrius Martin, he gets added. Breaking news, Cody Whitfield, he is moving on. Apparently, we knew last week that Brian Norwood was moving on. Because Norwood coached safeties and Whitfield coached cornerbacks. Now it seems like Demetrius Martin has the whole secondary to himself. So that's going to be very interesting to see, as well as should we go down? Should we go down the list of coaches right now?
I mean, I think you just
did. Potential.
Didn't you just do
Well,
it?
that's what I was going to say. Jethro Franklin from was he Fresno State is rumored to be coming in as defensive line coach. As of now, linebackers, it's not sure because Tony Washington, he's moving on. He was a defensive line coach from last year, as well as outside linebackers. We have no idea what's going on with the linebacker situation now. Malloy also coached inside linebackers. So are they going to just bring in one guy to handle the linebackers itself? Are they going to split them up again? So that's a question. That's something to look for. But yeah,
in you know, in my opinion, a lot of these guys, you know, you have coaches that switch positions a lot, and if you have two guys coaching linebackers, you're going to split into inner and outer, and if you only got one guy, you're going to make him just the linebackers coach, and the same with the secondary and all that stuff. So I don't worry much about the positions they're being listed at as much as, you know, what is their track record coaching? Have they been coaching at successful places? Have they been successful with? Do they have a lot of guys on their, you know, in their notches on their gun belt as far as like guys that have gone on to be successful, guys that they have developed that weren't highly recruited but then ended up coming out and being, you know, big time performers. You know, those are the kind of things I'm looking at when I'm looking at like the coaches that they're hiring. And I think you pointed this out, Mike. Martin, like we're familiar with him, and he's a guy who should improve or at least, you know, maintain, if not improve, the recruiting acumen of the staff as a whole. I think that's pretty fair to say, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, as far as like who the assistants are going to be, once again, like in what positions they're coaching, I'm not going to worry about that too much, just because I think a lot of times they get the coaching staff that they want and they're like, okay, you take this, you take that, you take that, to a degree, right? Certainly guys have specializations. You know, you might bring in a guy that's like a quarterback whisperer or something like that. But to a degree, you just get the guys you want that you think are going to be able to recruit and motivate and get out there. And then the coordinators are the ones that really are giving the impact as far as like strategically what they're doing, right? You work with your staff, but at the end of the day, it falls on them, on the coordinators to actually deploy the guys. And
yeah,
I think you said it right at the beginning, Mike. It is imperative that they keep Malloy. If they lose him, that will be a huge loss. To have to go to, you know, find another diamond in the rough coordinator for a third year in a row. That's like, you know, in my opinion, that's going to be really, really tough, especially when you look at, we thought Malloy lost a lot of talent from 2023 to 2024, but when you're talking about taking Jay Toya and Medrano and Schlesinger off this team, we didn't even know we had Schlesinger until we had him, and then he was, you know, absolute superstar baller. But Jay Toya, not having Jay Toya is going to be a huge problem for them fielding a good defense next year. And if they don't have the continuity of their coach, I think it will be that much harder.
Yeah. Just really quickly. Also, you mentioned Schlesinger.
We love him. Captain America.
Exactly. And Captain America is, in fact, an AP All-American.
That's awesome.
So that came out today. That dude has like all the honors in the world. But yeah, that was the big one that came out. Oh, dude, Deshaun Foster should totally get him a shield.
He should. Blue and gold shield.
Oh,
big star in the middle.
That'd be dope.
Big bear head in the middle or something.
Blue and gold with. Oh, dude, Jake, you're just bringing out. That's awesome.
It's been a while, Mike. I got
no cap. No cap. Right.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, there seems to be good progress. I think after the season ended, which was just about 2 weeks ago, which is weird. I was thinking about it on Saturday night. The season ended two weeks prior to that. UCLA could definitely be in a worse position. If Deshaun Foster didn't fire Eric Bieniemy, and that's what they were going with, it seems like there would be absolutely no hope. I don't think the coaches or maybe even, you know, some of the players that have committed to UCLA would have, considering the direction that they're in. But it does seem like Deshaun Foster is like, you know, I need to step back, see what I need, let go of what I need to, and bring in guys that want to be here. And so far, especially with Sinceri as one of them, that's a huge get. And then they got who was the Quan, the Arkansas State offensive line coach, who's apparently he's been doing a bang up job over there.
I'm pretty sure
word is
he
that
was an overlapping GA with Sinceri
at Alabama.
Yeah.
Yes,
so I mean, that's connection.
That's what I was going to say.
So it's fine.
Exactly, especially under Saban, you can't go wrong there. And then as far as wide receivers, they're last year was Frazier, but he's out. Burl Toller, wide receivers coach and a recruiting coordinator at Cal, he's a possibility. There's also the possibility of Chad Savage from Colorado State being in the mix, so that's still up in the air. So I do like the move that he's making, but at the same time, if they get another Cal individual, that would be amazing. Because what's also rumored, Jake, which was on our text group text with the Godfather, is that Mendoza, he was originally I guess he had Georgia and Indiana as his top two destinations. UCLA seems to be now firmly in the mix. So
Mike, do you realize that, Fernando Mendoza up there, proud Golden Bear, at least until last week, Megan met him at the band banquet the day before he went into the transfer portal. And apparently he gave a speech to the Cal band like, guys, it's going to be awesome. Next year's going to be great. I can't wait to play in the bowl game. And then literally like 6 hours later, he's like, yeah, I'm transferring. It's like, go Bears.
Go Bears.
Well,
it's a shame.
It happens.
And by the way, Megan was crestfallen.
That's right. You
crestfallen and heartbroken.
Well, now she can come back and be a true Bruin fan. So there's
that ship has sailed. The Bruins give her the middle finger. She's a Bear.
Yeah, well,
maybe law school. So,
grad school, exactly.
Maybe so anywho, yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I said though, I'm not going to fucking worry about who's coming and who's going because it's so fluid. And like my main thought about this whole thing is that, whoever comes in the transfer portal, I want them to want to be here for whatever reason, whether really mostly, like, I'm sure some of the guys coming in the transfer portal are going to get paid. I'm sure some of the guys that are coming in the transfer portal are not going to get paid very much, and some will get paid more and all that stuff. But the most important thing is whoever's coming to play for the Bruins in 2025 needs to be committed to not UCLA, because that doesn't happen anymore. They need to be committed to Deshaun Foster and his 2025 season staff, just for the season at least. Because you see teams that are good, and I think that in this new changing age where guys are bouncing every year, it's a reshuffling of the deck, and it's getting worse and worse and worse, or more and more and more, however whatever perspective is on it. The teams that are going to be successful are going to be the teams that can get the guys that they bring in to pull in the same direction as the guys they already got in, and that's when you're going to have the opportunity to overachieve, right? It's a complete unknown what UCLA's talent is going to be next year at this point, but if they bring in dudes that are all committed to Foster and his staff, and hopefully that is Sinceri and Malloy and the guys underneath them, then they will have the chance to have a team that is greater than the sum of the parts. That's what they need to have. This year, because of Fredo, they had a team that was less than the sum of the parts. At least the offensive side was. The defense was the opposite of that. But yeah, that's what the problem was this year. And if they, regardless of who they bring in or who they don't bring in, if they can get everybody pulling in the right direction, then there's going to be games next year, I guarantee you, where they're going to be outgunned AF, okay? And, what was they got Ohio State, that's not going to go well, in all likelihood. They got Penn State, that's not going to go well, in all likelihood. But these other games, the Michigan States, the Marylands, the Nebraska, Washington again, the Bruins had, it might be tough for watching, but whatever the games we're talking about are, the Utah game, the UNLV game, New Mexico game, they are going to have games where, they're going to be in these kind of 50-50 games again this year. And if they have a team that is together and committed to Foster and his staff, then they will have a chance to win all those 50-50 games and have a nice story of a season. But if they're not, then they're going to lose those, and then it's going to be another crappy season, and they're not going to build any momentum, and then that boulder's going to be rolled in the wrong direction, right? We need to roll in the right direction. Exactly. And so whatever guys come in through the portal and whatever guys they just recruited, whoever it ends up being, I'm more concerned with them getting guys that are buying into the new program that they're trying to build now that hopefully they've fixed the offensive coordinator problem. Fingers crossed, knock on wood, yada, 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 right?
Exactly. And with that, kind of a weird transition. Do you want to talk about briefly the schedule for next year?
Well, I mean, sure. That's fine.
I kind of
What do you have to
think
say
it's
about
kind
it?
of favorable. I think it's a good schedule for UCLA. They're not going to get their brains beaten in. It seems manageable. I'll say that. It seems a lot more manageable than this year's schedule. At the Rose Bowl against Utah, although Utah has UCLA's number for like ever, then at UNLV Allegiant Stadium, New Mexico is in town. And then non-conference is at Northwestern, Penn State at the Rose Bowl, at Michigan State, Maryland at the Rose Bowl, at Indiana, Nebraska at the Rose Bowl, at Columbus, Ohio, Washington at the Rose Bowl, and then USC, the last game of the season, thankfully. Again, at the
it's just
the
the every other
Coliseum.
year thing, but yeah. And Mike, I'm looking at the schedule, and I want to know from you, looking at the schedule, how many of these games? I just talked about kind of what the auto losses were, in my opinion. How many of these games do you think they're going to be absolutely, underdogs completely? It would be a shocking surprise if they win the game. So how many of these games are automatic losses, in your opinion?
Ohio State, Indiana, Penn State. That's it. I think there are a lot more 50-50 games, coin flips, this next season than there were last season.
Yeah, well, I think that when we went into last season, right, it was the Oregon, Penn State, and then it turned out that Indiana was on that list as well, and then they had LSU. We thought there were going to be 3, and it ended up being 3.5, pretty much. This season, I think it's still, they have 3 games that they're really going to have a hard time winning, and it's the same ones that you said. And then the rest of them, depending on how the talent does come around and how the staff comes around. Yeah, I kind of feel like they have a similar schedule to what they had last year, only it is distributed a lot better. They don't have a 3 and what turned out to be a 4-game death march. They could come out and get that home opener at the Rose Bowl against Utah, get some momentum, be 3-0, 4-0 after Northwestern, and then you go to Penn State. And then you could bounce back against Michigan State, Maryland, and then Indiana. And then you can play hard against Nebraska and hopefully you get that win. And then you play Ohio State, and then you can try to finish strong with Washington USC. It's so much better of a spread of games as opposed to the we're definitely going to get after the Indiana blowout. It's like, oh well, we know for a fact we're losing the next 3 games, because they're going to lose the next 3 games no matter what. So that just made for so much more of a depressing looking season.
Yeah, and then oppositely, what games do you think UCLA will have a guaranteed win? I only see 3: New Mexico, Northwestern, and Maryland. For Pete's sake,
I would.
Everything else literally seems like a 50-50. USC, Washington, Nebraska, Michigan State, UNLV, and Utah.
I honestly, looking at this, I mean, there's one game that I'm pretty positive they're going to win no matter what, and that's New Mexico on September 13th. Every other game, you can talk me into a version of events where they don't win, and that's kind of scary. I don't know if I'd call UNLV quite a coin flip, but I think it's closer to a coin flip than it is to a guaranteed win. I think that honestly, that's what I think. Northwestern, they're going to have a. They should be favored against Northwestern in most version of events, but I don't know that for sure. Maryland coming out to Rose Bowl, they're probably going to be favorites in that game, regardless of how Maryland is, just because of all the travel and all that stuff. That's how that goes. But I wouldn't, mark that as any sort of automatic either. So, Ron, the only automatic wins, in my opinion, for this year is just the one, New Mexico, at this point, and then go from there. But I think that, as we said, if they get some good talent in and the coaching staff is able to more importantly, get these guys playing hard in the right direction altogether. And, since Harry pans out as a good offensive coordinator, I think that, like you said, it's much more important to me that they are able to compete in 9 of these 12 games than that they only have one cupcake on their schedule, if that makes sense. Because if they're good, they're probably going to win the games. And if they're not good, then they'll be like this year and be completely, up and down and kind of middling, which is what they ended up being, which it's sad to say they still exceeded expectations that a lot of national, people looking at the Big Ten thought, but we all know they underachieved. Like, we know they underachieved because of how bad the offense was. So,
yeah, exactly.
All right, Mike. Well, that's a lot of football talk, Mike. That's a lot
good
of
football talk. People need to know.
Do you want to move on to other things like basketball talk?
Basketball.
All right, let's do that. Okay, Mikey. Well, football season is over, and so I can no longer really play this button with any authority. Where'd my button go? It's right here.
I know, right?
Like to avoid the basketball shows for as long as possible.
And that's fine. That's fine. Once football season's done, just move on. Let's get to basketball. I will actually start paying attention to basketball now. I promise. I swear. I absolutely will. But do you want to talk about, Mike, the team that's 10-0? Or the team that's 9-1, because they're both doing pretty darn good. Go Bruins, and let's go.
Go Bruins.
True, but we do have to be honest. One is dominating a lot more than the other. One has a bigger scoring margin. One has been the number 1 team for 4 straight weeks. So let's go with them first. That is, in fact, the UCLA women's basketball team, who is currently playing. Unfortunately, if you're not able to watch it, and who does have the Big Plus streaming app to watch these games? But yeah, Jake, you're right. If nobody's going to watch it, they're going to put it on these side streaming
Big Ten Plus
apps or whatever. But anyway, as we speak, UCLA in the fourth quarter with 1:14 left is leading Cal Poly 67-37.
That's right.
And a lot of people were tweeting me going, why isn't Laura Betts playing? What's going on? Nothing to be alarmed about. Apparently she has a minor leg injury, and especially when you're going against Cal Poly and everyone else sans Lauren Betts is winning 67-37. Let her rest. Let her rest. What do they call it in the NBA? Time management. This is good, especially considering that, things get a lot harder for the Bruins in the next few weeks. Saturday, they are taking on Creighton, which isn't ranked, but it got votes this year and is essentially 33rd in the nation. They are playing in the Invisalign Bay Area Classic, so that's not going to be an easy game. This is probably going to be the first true test for UCLA since South Carolina. Then it doesn't get any easier. Like a week after that, the Bruins play. God, why is my computer acting stupid?
Nebraska on 12/29 and Michigan on 1/1, January 1st. 23 in the nation and 20 in the nation currently, right? Big Ten schedule.
Yeah, seriously, my computer's flipping out. So yeah, Nebraska is actually both of those games are at Poly Pavilion. So I'm going to try to get out there to check those out personally.
Nice.
But right now, this team is rolling. They went to the Pyramid at Long Beach on Saturday, and they just destroyed the Beach 102-51.
Go Beach.
It was just like it wasn't even there. It wasn't even like they were. I know, Jake. I know that's your alma mater, second alma mater.
Yeah.
But they were just. What's and a fun fact.
I'm glad the Bruins destroyed them.
Long Beach State it leads the season the series. Has more wins in the series with UCLA.
Oh wow!
Because back in the 70s and 80s. UCLA wasn't that great. Long Beach State actually kind of was. But yeah, this was a hurt that UCLA put on Lauren Betts got her 7th double-double.
When
She
you
scored
double
22
somebody
points.
up and you score 100 points, that's a whooping.
That hurts. That's an ouchie. But yeah, Lauren Betts got 22 points. So yeah, I don't know the specifics of her injury, but apparently it's once again, it's nothing to be worried about. So she's just sitting out because again, there are 4, 5. God, the Big Ten women's basketball conference is fucking hell. It is a very difficult conference. Like, we've talked about this, that the Pac-12 before it dissolved was the best women's basketball conference in the nation. Yeah, all that moved over to the Big Ten. There are 8 teams in the top 25 this season, but yeah, it's going to be quite a gauntlet for the Bruins heading into season play. So, yay!
Mike, you have been complaining about them not being on real television. It's like we're in the Pac-12 network all over again. But the Creighton game's on Fox Sports 1. Nebraska game doesn't have any TV listed on ESPN right now. You might be able to tell me more about that.
It's on Big Plus.
Okay, so the game against Michigan is on Big Ten Network. The game at Indiana is on Fox on 1-4. And then at Purdue is once again on Big Ten Network. So 4 out of the next 5 games are on actual real TV. So you got that going. If you want to catch up with the number 1 team in the country, and hopefully they stay that way as they go through this stretch, now is the chance. Set your DVRs accordingly. Yeah, absolutely.
And even I do like this. So the games after that, it's against Northwestern on Big Plus. I hate that conference games are on a streaming service. They got to be okay. Well, let me rephrase that. There are different types of streaming services. Obviously, you can mirror your phone and put it on your TV, your smart TV. But it just seems weird that you have to go through your phone for an app. But Penn State is on Peacock. Okay, I like that. Baylor, Fox, Rutgers, FS1. So the back end of the season schedule is definitely going to be televised. So that's good. But just having us suffer to try to watch the number 1 team in the nation will not stand. This aggression will not stand, Jake.
I'm sorry, Mike.
I'm gonna write a strongly worded letter to the Big Ten.
You should.
That, and you heard my complaint last week about overlapping major sports being scheduled at the same time, right?
Yeah, it just
that's
depends
some bullshit.
It just depends on your definition of major.
I will jump through this phone. I will jump through this phone. I will jump through this phone, Jacob.
I know. I'm sorry. Anyways,
number 1 team in the nation.
They are. I love it. It's wonderful. I'm very proud to be a Bruin when I look at the women's basketball team. It's wonderful. I'm just saying, when we talk about things that are televised, people.
Jake, we have a final. Adam Westwood, UCLA defeats Cal Poly 69-37 without the services of Lauren Betts. Janiah Barker, 12 points, 13 rebounds, double-double. We have 2 almost double-doubles. Dugalich gets 12 points, 8 rebounds. I'm sorry. Gardner with 11 points and 6 rebounds. So, yeah, everyone else kind of like took over. But, I think we're going to see a team that's going to start coming into conference play and just start punching people in the mouth. Well, I really think that this is one hell of an aggressive team.
Well, let's get a clap for that.
Fight! UCLA, fight!
And I want to thank our peeps on the Slack channel, specifically Carrie, Jack, and Nancy for keeping me up to date on what's going on with that basketball game. That got me to pull up on ESPN to follow it, just like you were, Mike. So that's great. So yes, good. So now
Jake,
11-0.
How about Jack Rosenfeld?
Jack's awesome.
Live tweeting the water polo game. I know awesome you did that. We were all busy.
Yeah, national title.
That was another example of stop scheduling everything together. The women's game, the men's game, basketball, and then you have the national championship water polo game. It's like, how are Bruins supposed to? Bruins are passionate about all their sports. To try to put up 3 TVs.
You just record it and watch it.
Well, hell, I'll do it, but yeah.
Just record and watch it. I know. It's the plight of a comprehensive sports fan.
when you're paid to do one thing, you kind of have to focus on that one thing. So
I totally know, Mike. I understand what you're saying.
anyway,
Anyways, we're
yes,
very happy.
now we
11-0 for the women and a fun
and
team.
now the Bruins, the men's team. Jake, I know you don't like the UCLA versus Arizona because it brings out the worst
It lowers
in
us.
people. But you know what was weird?
Yes.
I didn't see that much vitriol this time around. Maybe it was a marquee game. Maybe it was a non-conference game. Maybe nobody cares. Especially since UCLA has been trying to prove who they are, and Arizona has had such a lackluster start to the season. It just seemed like, oh, okay, whatever. Admittedly,
it definitely took a little shine
UCLA and USC football. Yeah, exactly. If these two teams are not in the top 25 battling for something, here's what I'll say to your point about it brings out the worst in people. I think this is kind of going to diminish the rivalry, and it'll turn into just another game that they play every now and then. I don't think we're going to have the
all in favor. Aye. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm down with that. It's like, oh, okay, they're good. They're the local team that's good, and we battle them. But yeah, you're right. You said it perfectly. It definitely took the shine off this rivalry. And what they play next year at Intuit Dome? I can't remember where the
I don't
quote
know.
unquote home
sure.
and home at neutral sites is at. But
that's such a weird deal.
That was pretty cool because it wasn't necessarily an Arizona home game, but it essentially was being in Phoenix. As Ben Bolch tweeted out, it seemed like it was 85% Arizona fans. So to still be in a hostile environment against a team that you just hate, that this is Arizona, we're going to go at them. It was pretty impressive to see the Bruins go up by 10 in the first half. And it wasn't just by accident. They did a very good job of smothering this team and not letting them score while you have guys just kind of like breaking out, especially Sky Clark. Since I've been tracking the individual statistics, especially the per minute statistics, Sky Clark is just not up there. Kobe Johnson isn't up there except for rebounds. He's actually been doing very good with the rebounds, but and a lot of people have been saying, just with the eyeball test, why is Sky Clark in there so much? Well, he kind of shut people up this past game because he had 16 points, 3 rebounds. He was essential to UCLA's start to the game, and that was good to see because you want a guy who can finally find his flow. Another guy who found his flow was Tyler Bilodeau. He had 70 points. He was just kind of a menace in the paint, and UCLA just kind of kept Arizona at bay. And then the second half happened. Start of the second half, Arizona kind of goes on their run. They play defense, and it just looked like a classic kind of like UCLA meltdown. But right around the 10:35 mark, things just start going right for UCLA. They have a few fast breaks, a few steals, defensive plays. Arizona only scored 5 points in the last 10 minutes, which allowed UCLA, I think it was a 19-5 run.
Yeah.
UCLA was down by double digits, and then they come back slowly chipping away at it and then just putting the hurt on Arizona. Like, just Arizona could not do anything. Someone said this like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, that this is probably the best defensive team Mick Cronin has had. And I'm like, I've seen better.
Yeah.
Like that Clark, Campbell, Singleton, Hawkes team, that was a pretty damn good defensive team. But this, like Frankenstein's monster made out of different parts, he's turned this into quite a monster of a defense. And
at least a third of the way into the season or whatever.
Exactly. Offense is getting there, but for the most part, this defense is just suffocating. So,
but it was just a weird game though, because like you said, UCLA comes out and
very
plays
much
well
so.
early, and then Arizona completely takes control of the game. They're up by 13 with 10 minutes left. At that point, they have like the percentage is like 95% victory in their favor, and then UCLA just closes it out, and and storms back, and it was wonderful. That if you're going to play these guys, you definitely want to win. Number one, especially when you're out there in Phoenix or in Arizona. And the Bruins were dogs going into this game, but end up getting the win against a team that, is now, even though they haven't played any conference games yet, they're last in the Big 12 just because they have the worst record in the Big 12. And UCLA is first in the Big 10 by benefit of its 2-0 conference record, even though there's a team that's got one more win than them, and that is Oregon. But they beat Oregon, so I guess I would put them ahead of them too. So,
tiebreaker.
Unlike, looking at some of the teams that went off the Big 12 while UCLA went to the Big 10, kind of inarguably at this point, UCLA had the worst season of the teams that went from the Pac to the Big 10 in football. And, as far as like the Big 12 teams, Arizona sucked, Utah sucked. Arizona State obviously is in the freaking playoff, which is just mind blowing, but all that. Bottom line, what I'm saying is it's nice for UCLA to have one of these stories where they're doing well going to the new big conference, and their former arch rivals, not so much. I kind of like that.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, Arizona sucks in football too, so that's great. At least they suck in both sports. I like that. I know how their women's team is doing.
Jake,
what?
You're letting it bring out the worst in you.
Well, I just don't want to ever have to think of them again. Thank you very much. So anyway,
so yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was just going to talk about like what happens next because
I
thought this was, looking before the season, this was going to be a tough stretch. Arizona, well, Prairie View A&M, that's a lob for a dunk. But then you have North Carolina, who's not ranked right now, but is they're still a pretty damn good team, and they are probably going to have the environment advantage with this being in New York. And then just about a week later, Gonzaga at Intuit Dome. Gonzaga is pretty freaking good. That's going to be the game that, like, okay, where is UCLA? Also, can you imagine UCLA beating Gonzaga? Gonzaga, where are they now?
I hope so. I'm going to be there.
Nice. Yeah. How big of a turning point would this be for UCLA men's basketball to beat a ranked Gonzaga team and then putting to bed all the ghosts of the last several seasons in which you've lost to the Bulldogs?
It'd be nice to beat
that
Gonzaga.
Would be yeah. But I think we'll have a better picture of who UCLA is this Saturday against North Carolina in New York. If they can play, because there were a lot of UCLA fans in Phoenix. That's not necessarily, I think that was more of a definition of a neutral game, despite the fact that there were more Arizona fans. But I think this is going to be a little bit harsher. I think UCLA has to, depending on the crowd, which I think is going to be very North Carolina heavy.
Mm-hmm.
They have to deal with the travel. Apparently the weather's going to suck. How are they going to deal with all of it? Obviously, you worry about just the game when you get on the court, but this is going to be a really good game. I'm quite excited for this one, which is at what time? Noon Pacific. So, yeah.
No, I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to going to Intuit Dome because I'm not going to go there for a Clipper game, but I will go there for UCLA Gonzaga, so that's going to be fun. So, we'll see how it goes. But to your point, though, Mike, like they have a couple big tests coming up, and we're going to see if they're worthy of climbing back into the top 25. And either they'll stay in there and move up, or they're going to probably get clipped again and see where they can end up by the end of the season. But overall, Mike, have you seen? We talked about Akeka Malloy's defense progressing through the 2024 football campaign, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was definitely a development arc. Are you seeing that from this team, and what is in what way?
It's weird because I saw the progress from basically from the first 2-3 games to now, and that's already a huge jump. So if this is a whole season arc, they're yet to peak, which I would agree with. I don't think that they have shown how good they can be, because Cronin's still trying to figure out time with these guys. He's trying to figure out matchups. He's trying to get the best, offense when needed out there, but he also, knows who are the guys who are going to really put the pressure on the ball when he needs some defense. So that's a lot to ask for a huge group of guys that are trying to figure out their roles. But I think 10 games in and they're kind of already figuring that out. I think this could definitely be, this could be the best defense in the country.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, and then do you see any, what's your biggest worry about, what's going to take these guys down as they go into Big Ten play for reals, and then think about the tournament?
If they can't make their free throws, they're kind of screwed.
Oh yeah, there's been 2 out of 3 games they suck at free throws, right?
Yeah,
that's bullshit.
Yeah, it's crazy. And if they, actually 3-point defense has been kind of decent the last few games, but I still worry about that. Sometimes they're kind of late off, switching or following their man. So that worries me a little bit. So it's and rebounding, general rebounding. Sometimes if they are not the ones to come out and just start grabbing boards, other teams will. So rebounding, free throws, and 3-point defense. But so far, so good. But, who knows? Those 3 are not elite, in my opinion, in those categories. So I can imagine that it'll average itself out. But for the most part, the Bruins are able to just get in the face, get in passing lanes, and, protect the rim. So I so far, with what they've got, obviously we want them to improve. I think they'll be all right.
Yeah. And so now from this point forward, you're really looking at a team that their last major layoff really is from the North Carolina game to the Gonzaga game. They have 6-ish days. And then from the Gonzaga game to the Nebraska game, they have another 6-ish days. And then after that, when they hit Nebraska on January 4th and the Big Ten play for reals, though, it's a game every 3 or 4 days, home, away, whatever. Yeah. They're playing every 3 or 4 days. And, then we'll see what kind of rhythm this team gets into and how they do when they get into conference play, and what kind of seed they end up playing themselves into. It certainly could be worse for the men's team right now, considering they haven't played any Big Ten games because the Oregon Washington game didn't count. They did. They did count. They played 2 Big Ten games. Yeah, they're 2-0, and things could be worse for sure, especially after that second game lost to New Mexico and how that looked. I think they bounced back rather strong, but now we're going to see how tested they get, I guess, Mike, right?
Jake, I want to get your take on this. I talked about this last week, but the Pac-12 schedule, men's play generally Thursday, Saturday, women Friday, Sunday. Mm. The Big Ten has a rule that there has to be 2 days in between game days, which, as you said, they're playing almost every 3 days. Obviously, the Big Ten might be used to it, and we're going to be like, "Oh, F that." I think there's a little bit more. I don't know. How can I say this? Peace of mind with knowing a set schedule rather than 3 or 4 days. But should former Pac-12 fans hate this new schedule, or is it just something that they have to get used to?
As far as hate, I think we should see how it goes.
Sucks.
And how it
I
feels.
hate it. I absolutely hate it. I talked about it too. There are quite a few overlaps too in the season with several teams, and we even saw it with football and basketball last month. But yeah, I personally I hate it, but I'm probably being just a little brat about it because it's just something new.
Yeah, I don't have a real strong opinion about it one way or the other. I do like that, once they start playing the conference, they're playing every 3 or 4 days, and that's that. And once you know that rhythm, then I think I'm fine with it. But I don't have a real strong opinion on it otherwise, Mike. So I'm sorry. But then again, I don't have to
No, I just wanted to ask you.
tweet
Yeah.
about both games at once.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah. Exactly.
that's the problem.
Yeah, that's my pleasure. That's my pain.
Yeah. So all right.
So,
Mikey, that was fun. I think we had it was good. We kind of covered everything there, and
very constructive.
yeah. Let's wrap this up with a nice round of what's brewing with you.
What's brewing with you? You ask me. What's brewing with me? Yeah. What's brewing with you? What's brewing with me? What's brewing with you?
Mikey, you're about to get on a plane tomorrow. What else is brewing with you?
Dude, I'm on vacation finally.
Let's go, Mike.
By the way, I don't know who this Keisha person is, but she does a freaking amazing cover of Lindsey Buckingham's Holiday Road.
Are you talking about Kesha from the Valley? Kesha?
Oh, Kesha? Is it Kesha?
I don't
know
that there was a cover of it. I don't know if it was Kesha that did it.
It is awesome. Because
I'll try to
that
look it up
cover
while
is
you're
original. That's from the original National Lampoon's Vacation, when they go cross country from Chicago to Los Angeles to go to Wally World, which is in fact Magic Mountain in Valencia, California.
Are you talking about the cover of Lindsey Buckingham's song that was there for the Ed
Yes.
whatever song? Yeah. I'm going to look it up right now, but keep talking about your thing because I'll pull it up.
But I also like to reference that song at these times, as well as the Christmas Vacation theme song. It's that time. Christmas time is here. Anyway, so just because I'm so busy, like I have gotten into the Christmas spirit, but it wasn't until this like last weekend where it was just a whole full weekend of stuff with my kids. Friday night, one of my coworkers lives out in Venice, so we went and they do a block party. And he was he's in this jazz band, and they were doing like jazz Christmas jingles the whole night. So we went out there. They had a snow hill for kids to slide on, and this is in Venice where it's like still 56 degrees. Food trucks, photo booths. It was really fun. It was a proper block party, and it was really cool because all the trees down the street were decorated. Most of the houses were decorated. Just a really fun kind of like party festival atmosphere for Christmas. Never really experienced that being in LA this whole time. So that was cool. But it was also my lovely, beautiful daughter, Violet. She turns 15 today.
Go Violet.
And so we basically had birthday weekend. So one of the things that she wanted to do is go see Wicked. And you know me, Jake. I love music. I love musicals. For some reason, I just never got into Wicked. I know the basic plot.
Has already seen it 3 times and she loves it. And I saw it live, at Pantages, 20 years ago, and I was not impressed. And she was playing me songs from it, and I'm still not impressed. But please tell me about the movie.
I don't, I kind of want to see the theatrical production now, but we got a late show too. So I think we got in there at 9 and left at like midnight because it was 3 hours for a part 1.
Mm-hmm.
That's hardcore. But I honestly, I just knew that it was the origin story from Glinda and the Wicked Witch of the East, all that stuff, which is weird because the Wizard of Oz was all Dorothy's dream. Meta.
Don't think too hard
anyway,
about it.
I know, right? I blame my kids because they think about everything now, and I have to engage in this stuff. And I do actually like these intellectual conversations with them. But I absolutely loved it. I thought Ariana Grande normally annoys the hell out of me.
Mm-hmm.
Her quirkiness in this movie, I thought it was pretty badass. But for people that know musical theater, they have an intermission, and usually right before intermission, there's a really big scene that something happens, which the end of this movie kind of signified the big scene before intermission because it's not coming out until November 21st. Thank you, my dear daughter Poppy. the end of this movie, especially with computer graphics, was amazing, Jake. Like, just wow. The melodies, the underlying tones of fascism, the very pissed off chimpanzees who got wings. And if I was a chimpanzee who got wings, I'd probably be like happy about it. But still, amazing. Sorry, I went on a bit much about that.
That's okay, Mike.
Saturday, my dear daughter had her whole dinner with her friends at the Americana. So we were there hanging out all Saturday nights. And my daughter Poppy, one of her best friends, had a birthday party on Sunday. So it was just a whole weekend of celebration, and I'm very happy about it. But I'm very exhausted, and I'm very much looking forward to these next 3 weeks of aside from parties and celebrations, rest. So I'm very happy about that. I am on break. I know you're not exactly, but I know you know my plight.
Yeah, no,
Jake,
absolutely, Mike.
what's wrong with you?
And I mean, I've been stealing money from the county since COVID, so I have nothing to complain about. But Mike, number one, to come back to the Holiday Road question.
Go get it, dog.
I have two versions of this in my very extensive music catalog. One is the Lindsey Buckingham. The other is a cover by a band called the DUMPLINGS, and I think that was sung by a chick. However, when you go to the soundtrack for the remake of Vacation with Ed, what's his name in it? The guy, Andy from The Office.
Oh,
the Holiday Road versions on that album were by the Zac Brown Band, and then there's another one by where'd it go? Sorry. They remastered the Lindsey Buckingham one, and then there's another one by someone listed as Matt Pond, PA. So I did not see anything even resembling Kesha or Keisha. I just saw those versions, but it's a great song.
No, Jay, you got to look.
Holiday Road.
It's really I'm looking at it right here. It's a short version, but Kesha, and she does it.
Is it by Kesha with a $sign? Kesha?
I don't see a $sign here, but okay. But it is more of a holiday kind of chilled out jazz version. It is sweet.
I will look it up as soon as we're done, because obviously that's a good song.
Okay.
So what's going to be, Mike, is I'm just going to say that I tapped out of the waved out of the last couple pods that you did. Thank you very much for covering, but in large part it's because I have been very, very, very busy. Even though, like I said, I steal money from the county daily during the week. Since
that's so punk rock.
Thank you, Mike. Since the week before Thanksgiving, all of these things have happened to me. I obliterated my middle finger on my right hand in a giant iron door, and it's still, I'll show you, Mike. I'm going to flip you off right now with my finger.
Ow.
This is 3 weeks later, and it's still, I don't have, I can touch it, but this hurts doing this. But for like a week, if I even came within a centimeter of something, my finger would start to scream because it was so painful. So I smashed my finger in a giant in a
giant iron door.
In an iron door, which has something to do with the way I steal money from the county. I was at a last weekend, I found out at 7 a.m. on Sunday that I would be going to a luxury box for the Rams-Bills game that ended up being one of the games of the year. So I was there for that at noon. And then in the evening, I was at a Laker game with Malcolm, and we got a photo with Cam Reddish.
Nice.
Was on TV for a local hearing, and I was and I got recognized for being on TV by rando people that I was walking around with a couple weeks later. So that's kind of fun. I was
really quickly, Jake, were you recognized because of the stuff you texted us about?
Yeah, exactly. And so nice. Hey, weren't you on TV the other day? I'm like, why? Yes, I was. That's so much fun. And then and if you're on the Slack feed, you got some of that love. That's insider stuff. My daughter, that I will not name, one of my daughters may have almost got into some legal trouble, and that's as much as I can say because I'm sworn to secrecy on it. And I want to say this to my mom. Mom, don't worry about it. We'll fill you in later. Don't worry about that. It sounds worse than it was, but it may involve some shenanigans, some college shenanigans. I was in a car accident, and then I got the worst car rental ever. I almost had to get into a fight with a guy that called one of my partners in Russian, by the way, a dirty Russian whore with pretty lips. I
Whoa,
shattered an
that's
entire.
specific.
Exactly. I almost had to fight the guy, but I didn't, thankfully. I shattered an entire toilet seat. Entire toilet seat. I shattered a toilet. I shattered a toilet.
This is like a bill. What's brewing with
I
you?
know. I shattered a toilet by over tightening screws. Okay, because I was trying to fix something, and the thing fucking. I over tightened. Never over tightened in plumbing. And I shattered.
Oh, you never owed tighten, Jake.
I acted.
You never go full tighten.
You never. I acted in an audition that successfully landed a part. Not for me.
What?
Else. I attended the gayest Christmas party in Palm Springs ever. And by gay, I don't mean that in any negative sense. I mean, literally, it was hosted by, by a wonderful gay couple, and it was at the Dinah Shore Estate. So it's like, it was absolutely fabulous.
You had a party in Palm Springs, and it was gay.
Shocking,
okay.
I know.
Yeah.
Shocking development.
Water's wet, Jake.
I'm just saying, like, Mike,
Palm Springs rocks.
Were you at Dinah Shore's Estate for a Christmas party?
Never.
No, see, I was. And it was crazy. Yeah.
Kind of wanna.
it was a blast. I had fun. So, anyways, all that and more has. And then, Mike, you'll love this one. A work colleague that I know, and I'm not going to name what I do, although it's out there. And this person was of a different profession, I should say, but not, but certainly an absolute professional. And I was told that I should try cocaine, except for the fact that it's not really safe anymore. So that happened. So it's been quite a it's been quite a month, I'll say that. So and I'm hanging in there. So, Mike, that's been what's been.
That's a hell of a what's brewing. I thought mine was a bit off the rails.
And I'll tell you this right now: there's 3 that I'm leaving off the list that can't be on. That I'll share with you off air. That's not the only thing that happened. So, so it's good to be back. We'll be. I think Mike will chat. I don't know if we're doing one next week. I think we agreed that it was going to be the week after Christmas.
It's the holidays, bitches.
Yeah, exactly. So we're not going to have a show next week unless something crazy happens. Mike's going to be off on vacation, and then he's going to be with his family. All my kids are back at home now. We are, by the way, I will be at the LA Bowl because Megan is marching for the Bears. So we're going to that on Wednesday. So that's going to be fun. And
Go Bears.
And I'll tweet some pictures out about that. Go Bears. And eventually I do have like 3 episodes of The Bare Minimum in the can that I just have not edited.
The Bare Minimum.
In like months. So that's out there for you, and that'll get out there at some point. So anywho, we'll be back after Christmas, but before New Year's for at least one show to talk about, I think, maybe how the Bruins did against Gonzaga or whatever, and how the women's team is doing. But we'll probably get back to normal, regular rhythm the week after New Year's or whatever, right? Does that sound about right to you, Mikey?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so.
That's good times. There's not going to be much to talk about anyway. I mean, there might be a few things here or there, but we'll figure it out.
Agreed. And like I said, if you're worried about transfers, if you're worried about the football coaching staff, just don't. Just wait a little while. Read a book. Mike, what are you watching over there? Oh my God, that's a bass.
Oh, sorry.
I
was trying to. That was the Lindsey Buckingham version of Hollywood.
Oh, don't get us flagged on YouTube.
Hey Google, stop.
Okay, good.
Exactly.
All right. So, anyways, Mike,
shut up. We're trying to do a job here.
Yeah. Mike, have a great trip, right? And
you too.
Say hello to my my favorite expatriate Bruin in Philadelphia. Until next time, I guess we should say go Bruins.
Go Bruins.
Good evening.
Smoke 'em if you got 'em.
That was the What's Bruin Show.
Try us tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel.
It's got to be in or out, Mom. In or out. Well, I need the door closed.
Thank you for your cooperation.
Dude, bro, we play some ball on the West Coast.
The final word is boob.